Mr. Pond, thank you for inviting me to do a Scoutmaster's Minute for the Round Table. When I joined Scouting as a cub in 1965, there were no women Scoutmasters, and Scouting excluded some people that are included now. That begs the question, has Scouting changed? Anyone can spin the story to fit their political agenda, but do not make the mistake of thinking the Boy Scouts are taking one side of our country's political correctness fight or the other. Scouting is a movement that belongs to all of you. Anyone that thinks otherwise has overstepped their bounds to think that they can dictate the future of Scouting. That is a grave mistake.
We had a wonderful Scoutmaster, Dennis Roberts, mentored all of us as adults on what it really meant to be an adult for these boys. And one night we were up on the Lewis River standing around, and Dennis was retiring and had moved on, and 4 men and I were standing there poking the fire with sticks. We were talking about being the next Scoutmaster. We laugh about it now because one of my ardent supporters was the senior patrol leader at the time, Michael Leone. And when we told Michael that I would be the new Scoutmaster, he was very concerned and reminded me that Ann, you're a woman. I told him that it wasn't a problem. If he had any concerns, issues that he wanted to talk to men about, we had plenty of great assistant Scoutmasters. And to this day, Michael and I are good friends.
I mean, I don't personally see a problem. I do love that we have so many men in our ASM ranks, and that the boys actually have both men and women, and so they see those both as role models. There definitely have been a couple of men, fathers that have made comments. It's interesting because that comment gets communicated to another man that's one of our ASMs, and like, oh really?
My impression of Boy Scouts was that the fathers were the leaders, and the women did the committee type work. That was just my impression, but of course that was just my assumption about Scouting. As I've gotten more involved, I've found that that really isn't the case, that it's, at least in this troop and many others that I've encountered, they really encourage women to participate. The more volunteers you can have help the boys, the better.
I have boys, and boys are what brought me to Boy Scouts.
I started out in 2007 when my son joined Cub Scouts.
Our son John wanted to be a tiger many years ago, 20 years ago. And so Terry and I joined Boy Scouts along with him when he was a Tiger Scout. We continued through Scouting. John rolled over into Boy Scouts. Terry and I joined him as assistant Scoutmasters. I continued working with the troop, mentoring Eagle Scouts.
I love what it's done for John. He has grown so much. He's an only child. And for me, it was really important for him to be involved in a group where he had to learn to work well with others, and Scouting has really given him that opportunity. What does it for me is seeing the other boys in the troop go from these boys to young men.
So actually, I have a new assistant Scoutmaster who's getting ready to take the training this next month, I guess. She just started in the troop like 6 or 8 months ago with her son, and she went on our first backpack trip right after she joined. She didn't have any of the right gear. She had cotton all over the place, and she had sandals. I'm like, you're gonna go backpacking with us down the Susan Trail and that? She said, I hike in this stuff all the time. Well, it rained and she was cold and miserable, but she was a trooper. She didn't really complain about it. By the time we went on the next outing, she had a little bit more gear. Next outing, a little bit more gear, but she's a trooper. She just keeps coming out and just eager and happy to learn the skills. You don't have to have the skills to be effective as a Boy Scout leader. You have to be willing to learn the skills. That's what Boy Scouts is. That's what we do, right? Is learn the skills, train the skills, do the skills. It's that progression.
My 2 sons are both Boy Scouts. My oldest son, John, became an Eagle Scout a few years ago. And my youngest son, Joe, he's currently a Life Scout. He's 16 years old, working on his Eagle project. Boy Scouts pretty much changed my life because it gave me the chance to be a leader and have responsibility, and gave me a chance to associate with some really intelligent adults who really cared about the development of boys, and exposed me to people other than my own family. So it really gave me a different perspective on life overall.
My oldest started as a bear. My youngest started the next year as a tiger. And we've been in scouting ever since. The first couple of years, I was kind of watching, seeing what was going on. I've been in the corporate world for about 20 years, and I've been able to take the full range of leadership training courses: communication, diversity, inclusion, project management, all the different things you do to learn how to run programs well. And Wood Badge takes all of that and puts it all together so that you know how to run an effective team. It's inside of the Boy Scout vision for what we're trying to do with the program. I guess when I went to Wood Badge, it wasn't that I learned something new. I learned all in one place how this all fits together. And it was basically this mountaintop experience of, hey, we're all scouters here. We can all work together.
It gives you the opportunity to work with other adults on issues for children, and it builds your own confidence. It's all about learning to be with others and to solve problems together. And those people bring a different perspective to the conversation. Whether you're a woman that was raised in the South or in Texas, or if you're a Native American in East Vancouver who comes from Idaho, or if your orientation is different than mine, or your economic status is different. You bring a different perspective, and that helps the conversation to solve the problem.
I am a enrolled member of the Colville Nation. Confederated tribes were based out of Nispelem, Washington. The Treaty of 1876 established the Colville tribe itself, which is basically a number of bands that were grouped together against their will to a reservation of approximately 2.5 million acres in north central Washington. In my personal opinion, it would be a great benefit to tribal members if we were able to establish troops on the reservations themselves. In order to establish troops, you need to have leaders that have either experience in Boy Scouts, who have a deep commitment to ensure that scouting is a success. And since there's been no history of that on many of the reservations, I see that as a very large roadblock and could be an obstacle in establishing troops on tribal lands themselves in the future. Any outside entity is looked at as being foreign and looking for other motives, whether to distort tribal values or native values. So I think that is definitely a roadblock in the way, and that's something that needs to be looked at. A component of every tribe's youth education program. But it does require some very careful, not manipulation, but communication with the tribal elders and tribe themselves in order to show them the values and the benefits of the program versus just another welfare or another governmental directed program that provides no benefit.
As I look at it, we will welcome all of our youth, regardless of their race and their religion, their ethnic background, their economic status, or their orientation. And I need strong community members, and that's what I'm building. I want them to be helpful, friendly, courteous, kind to everyone around them, whether it's in their school or in their neighborhood. I need them to help make decisions with me for the betterment of my community. And as I see it, we're building a community together. It's
hard to get kids when they're 11, 12, 13 years old to take it up out of the blue. It can be done, but it requires more effort than if it's ingrained in their nature starting when they're very young, 7, 8 years old, than when they're 5, 6 years older than that. The tribe could really benefit from it because the amount of crime and alcohol abuse and drug abuse and the ever-ending cycle of poverty on most reservations, that starting with the youth is the key to change that over the years. And things are getting better on most reservations, but there's always room for improvement. I'm really a proponent of scouting and believe that it leads to the development of really productive citizens and really good individuals that can really help society as a whole.
With some of the changes in the program now, for instance, the recent transgender issue, have you seen any issues come up with that? Any of these kind of, well, for instance, gay leaders, gay boys, or transgender people being allowed into the program? Have you noticed any comments or concerns?
I mean, certainly we've seen troops fold because their charter organizations didn't allow the change in the policy. What's interesting to me is when I ask the boys, what do you guys think about this? The boys kind of look at me like, what? Think about what? How is that a problem? Why are you even asking me? It's an adult problem, in my perspective. The boys learn how to get along. They live in a world where people get along.
I need everyone to come to the table, to bring their perspective, to sit and talk with us and help us solve the problem. I can't go alone and be out in front without others around helping make those decisions. And if we make a decision on housing or the homelessness, I need the James of the world, I need the Peggies, I need Beckies, I need all of those who may be transporting or feeding or housing or trying to develop an accessory dwelling unit in the building department. I need them to come together and help us solve the problem. All of those are involved in the problem, they're part of the solution. And I welcome everybody.
Nowhere in the scouting literature do we talk about the issues that divide our country politically. In fact, you will find that the Scout Oath and law stands for the good for all. The facts speak for themselves, because the Boy Scouts do not belong to the left, nor do the Boy Scouts belong to the right. Thousands of families have received meals from food collected by Boy Scouts. Thousands of organizations like churches, schools, nonprofits, community parks who have benefited from Eagle projects. Millions of Scouts stand with their peers every week and recite our country's Pledge of Allegiance and the Scout Oath. We haven't lost our way. We have kept it. Ask all the young men who have earned their religious awards from Protestant to Catholic, from Jewish to Muslim. Ask our Scouts living in inner cities who showed marked improvement on suspension, absenteeism, reading proficiency, and math proficiency compared to non-Scouts. Ask the Scouts who we honor and recognize for earning their Eagle Scout Award. Ask the people whose lives were saved by Scouts using Scout skills. Ask the corporations and co-ed youth that ready themselves for a career through the Exploring program. The Scouts have stayed the course and continued for over 100 years. This past summer, I took Wood Badge again. After 30 years, it's the top leadership training for adults. I wanted to know what we stood for now. I needed to be sure. And it was the same ideals and goals that have not changed from 1965, 1986, or 2017. The Scouts' mission is to deliver a fun program of values based on the Scout Oath and Scout law to all young people across our country, because that helps them and everyone.